Fame can freeze a face in time, but time always finds a way back. Hollywood worships youth, yet every legend learns the same truth. Beauty fades, glory ages, and the mirror never lies. From icons who define perfection to stars now unrecognizable, these are 10 celebrities whose faces tell the story of time catching up way too fast. Mickey Rourke, the brooding star of 9.5 Weeks and The Wrestler, once embodied dangerous charm. In the 1980s, he had the kind of face that sold movie tickets. Smooth skin, sharp jaw, and a smirk that never missed its mark. He was Hollywood's rebel with both looks and talent, a man who seemed untouchable. But Rourke's passion for boxing pulled him from film and into a ring that would change him forever. The blows he took shattered his nose and cheekbones, and the reconstructive surgeries that followed only made things worse. What began as an effort to repair damage became a long series of procedures that slowly erased the face that made him famous. By the early 2000s, fans barely recognized him. His cheeks were swollen, his features distorted, his skin stretched unnaturally tight. Instead of the rugged idol he once was, Rourke now looked like a stranger playing his own reflection. Even in The Wrestler, a film that revived his career, audiences were haunted by how much life had altered him. In the years that followed, Rourke became a fascination for the press. Each new public appearance brought a wave of shock and speculation. He admitted that some of the surgeries went wrong and that he had chosen the wrong doctors. Yet, even as critics mocked his appearance, Rourke leaned into his hardened image. He found roles that mirrored his reality, men broken by their pasts, chasing redemption in a world that no longer recognized them. And while Mickey's face tells a story of battles and regret, the next star's decline came from a different kind of fight. Val Kilmer. The magnetic star of Top Gun and The Doors was once the kind of actor people could not stop watching. He had the looks of a matinee idol and the intensity of a method performer. In the 1990s, he was the man every studio wanted, confident, sculpted, and effortlessly cool. When he stepped into the role of Batman in Batman Forever, he seemed unstoppable. But fame can be heavy for those who never stop chasing perfection. Kilmer's reputation for being difficult on set began to overshadow his performances. Directors called him intense, demanding, and unpredictable. The image of Hollywood's golden man began to crack as the years went on, and soon the face that once defined swagger started showing the marks of time and illness. In the mid-2000s, Kilmer withdrew from the spotlight. His once chiseled jawline softened, his body grew heavier, and his energy faded. Paparazzi photos captured a man almost unrecognizable, moving slowly, his voice raspy and weak. Then came the revelation that explained it all. In 2015, Val Kilmer was diagnosed with throat cancer. The treatment saved his life but changed it forever. His voice became gravelly, his breathing labored, and a tracheostomy tube became part of his new reality. Where Val's decline came from the fight for his health, the next story belongs to a rock legend whose aging face tells the story of a life lived too fast for too long. Axl Rose. The fierce voice of Guns N' Roses and the face of rock rebellion in the late 1980s, once owned every stage he stepped on. With his long red hair, lean frame, and electric energy, he was the definition of dangerous youth. Songs like Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child of Mine made him a legend before he turned 30. His voice was raw power, and his look was untamed charisma. But as the years rolled by, the same intensity that made Axl great began to consume him. The band fell apart under the weight of egos and excess. Fights, lawsuits, and endless delays became his new reputation. The man who once ran across stages for hours vanished into reclusion, spending years out of sight while fans wondered what had become of their idol. When he finally returned in the early 2000s, the change was startling. The sharp features that once defined him had softened beyond recognition. His once sinewy frame had thickened, his skin carried the wear of years of hard living, and the trademark spark in his eyes seemed muted. It was as if the fire had burned too long and finally ran out of air. The man who once embodied chaos became its victim. Decades of late nights, alcohol, and poor choices took a visible toll. Photos from his tours in 2016 showed a bloated face, tight skin from rumored cosmetic work, and a body that no longer matched the legend of old. And while Axl's years left him marked and weary, the next story shifts to a Hollywood beauty whose golden glow faded under the glare of time and too many mirrors. Goldie Hawn. The radiant star of Private Benjamin and Overboard once captured audiences with her charm and unshakable optimism. In the 1970s, she was Hollywood's golden girl, bright, spontaneous, and effortlessly beautiful. Her laugh could light up a room, and her natural face became the symbol of carefree youth. But Hollywood rarely lets its women age quietly. As the years passed, Goldie began to face the same pressure that crushes every actress once adored for her looks. The tabloids followed her mercilessly, comparing old photos to new ones, magnifying every wrinkle and change. Somewhere along the way, the woman who once seemed untouchable began to look like she was fighting a battle she could not win. By the early 2000s, her features had shifted noticeably. The once soft lines of her face became tense and uneven, her skin stretched in ways that startled longtime fans. Rumors of cosmetic procedures swirled, though she never confirmed them. What was once natural radiance now seemed replaced by an uneasy attempt to hold on to what time had already claimed. Recent appearances showed Goldie still vibrant, still smiling, but undeniably altered. Her lips looked fuller, her cheeks tighter, her eyes heavier. For an actress who built her career on lighthearted confidence, the visible struggle against aging feels painful to witness. She remains full of energy, walking red carpets beside her longtime partner Kurt Russell. Yet her face tells a quieter truth, that even laughter cannot soften the fear of fading beauty. Goldie's story reveals how fame can twist the meaning of beauty, but the next star is a man once hailed as a warrior, now almost unrecognizable from the hero the world once cheered for, Russell Crowe. The intense and commanding actor behind Gladiator and A Beautiful Mind was once the very image of rugged strength. In the early 2000s, he carried the kind of presence that defined an era of cinema. He was fierce, confident, and carved from the same mold as the greats before him. His roles demanded respect, and so did his physique. But as fame settled in, so did comfort. The sharp jawline that once gave him authority began to soften. The weight that had built his gladiator frame slowly turned to excess. By the late 2000s, fans began to notice a new version of Russell Crowe, heavier, slower, and less alert. His once steely gaze dulled, his face puffier, his movements more labored. Crowe himself admitted that he had gained weight between roles, joking that it was for character preparation. But the years of indulgence began to show. Public outings showed him with thinning hair, loose clothing, and a face that seemed to carry more exhaustion than age. By the time he appeared in The Nice Guys in 2016, his transformation was undeniable. The film was praised, but audiences could not ignore how drastically he had changed. The same actor who once fought tigers in the Coliseum now looked worn down by life outside of it. Years of overeating, drinking, and skipping the gym had replaced the muscle with fatigue. And while Russell's transformation came from comfort more than chaos, the next story belongs to an actress whose struggle with aging was written across every feature she tried to save. Melanie Griffith. The star of Working Girl and Something Wild was once the embodiment of effortless beauty. In the 1980s, she had a soft face, bright eyes, and a voice that made her instantly recognizable. She carried herself with confidence and a natural allure that made her one of the most adored actresses of her time. Her rise was fast and dazzling, but the years that followed were turbulent. Fame, heartbreak, and the relentless pressure to remain desirable began to take their toll. As her career slowed in the late 1990s, Melanie turned to cosmetic procedures to preserve the youth that Hollywood had once celebrated in her. But the surgeries did not preserve her beauty. They distorted it. By the early 2000s, her face had changed dramatically. The once delicate features that defined her charm appeared swollen and uneven. Melanie later admitted that she had gone too far. In interviews, she confessed that she did not realize how much she had changed until people began to comment. She said she was shocked when she finally looked in the mirror and saw what others saw. After years of trying to reverse the damage, she appeared more natural, but the toll was clear. And while Melanie's struggle was carved by needles and mirrors, the next story turns to a man whose once lethal precision has faded into sluggishness. Steven Seagal, the martial arts master who dominated action cinema in the 1990s with hits like Under Siege and Hard to Kill, once moved with the grace of a predator. His calm, stoic presence and lightning-fast Aikido made him stand out in a sea of muscle-bound heroes. He had an aura of control, a quiet confidence that made him both feared and admired. But control is the first thing fame takes away. As his career slowed, Seagal's discipline seemed to fade. The sharp, commanding figure who once threw opponents across rooms began to expand in size and lose the speed that defined him. By the early 2000s, he had grown heavier, slower, and less convincing on screen. The once athletic fighter became a shadow of his former self, his movements labored, his posture slouched. Behind the camera, his reputation suffered too. Reports of arrogance, legal trouble, and erratic behavior followed him wherever he went. The man who once embodied calm confidence became a tabloid regular for all the wrong reasons. His face grew rounder, his hair darker and more artificial, and his wardrobe shifted to hide the weight that no camera could ignore. Steven's fall came through pride and excess, but the next story returns to a familiar face whose early fame burned bright, faded fast, and left behind the visible marks of survival. Lindsay Lohan. The breakout star of The Parent Trap and Mean Girls once had the kind of glow that money could not buy. She was natural, fresh-faced, and full of life. In the early 2000s, she was the face of young Hollywood, a girl who could act, sing, and charm anyone with a smile. She seemed destined to rule the industry for years to come. But fame came too quickly, and freedom came too easily. By her late teens, Lindsay was living faster than anyone her age should. Endless parties, late nights, and drugs began to reshape the young star who once seemed untouchable. The same face that filled magazine covers began to show the first signs of wear, dull eyes, tired skin, and a stiffness that spoke of exhaustion more than age. As the scandals multiplied, her youthful glow vanished. By the time she entered her 20s, her face had aged a decade beyond her years. Years of smoking, poor sleep, and substance abuse had left their mark. The freckles that once defined her charm faded beneath uneven skin tone and swelling. Paparazzi photos from 2012 showed a woman barely recognizable from the girl who had starred in Mean Girls less than 10 years before. In an attempt to recover, Lindsay turned to cosmetic fixes. The fillers and enhancements were meant to restore youth, but they only deepened the change. Her cheeks appeared rigid, her lips swollen, and her expressions unnatural. What once made her beautiful, her ease, her authenticity, was gone. The transformation was not just physical, but emotional. The spark was replaced with weariness. And while Lindsay's beauty was lost in the rush of fame, the next story focuses on a woman who defied aging for decades until time and surgery finally caught up to her. Madonna. The queen of pop and the voice behind Like a Prayer and Vogue once set the standard for reinvention. In the 1980s, she was untouchable, bold, magnetic, and fearless. Her face was radiant, her energy endless, and her confidence unmatched. She turned aging into a performance, redefining what it meant to be powerful and feminine in the spotlight. But time eventually humbles everyone, even the most daring. As the years passed, Madonna's need to stay ahead of the curve turned into a visible struggle against time. Each new era brought a new face, a tighter jawline, and fuller lips. By the late 2000s, the woman who had once embodied youth and rebellion began to look trapped in a version of herself she no longer recognized. Her appearance at the Grammy Awards in 2023 reignited the conversation about her transformation. Social media buzzed with shock and pity as photos of her new look spread online. Madonna responded with defiance, insisting she would never apologize for the choices she made to control her body. Madonna's battle was waged in pursuit of youth, but the next figure's decline shows what happens when strength itself begins to fade. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The bodybuilder turned movie legend known for The Terminator and Predator was once the definition of physical perfection. In the 1980s and 90s, his body was a monument to discipline and power. He was the man every gym goer wanted to be, the action hero who looked indestructible on screen. But even machines rust. As the years passed, Arnold's sculpted physique softened under the natural weight of time. His chest, once granite, sagged slightly. His arms lost their signature sharpness, and his waist thickened. The flawless symmetry that made him a legend became a memory. Public photos began to circulate showing the former Mr. Olympia looking tired, his movements slower, his once iron frame humbled by gravity. The transformation became more visible after his years as governor of California. Politics replaced training, and the demands of office left him less time for the gym. When he returned to acting in the early 2011, fans were startled. The iconic frame that had once carried entire films now seemed heavier, his face older, his energy less certain. The man who once said, "I'll be back," had indeed come back, but time had already beaten him there. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. See you in the next one.